Hey everybody, happy Saturday evening tutorial stream. Just realized I did not post about the sale on the internet. Oh well. Yeah, so welcome to Saturday evening live tutorial. I'm actually going to teach something tonight, unlike what happened on Thursday where it just turned into a shaker and spoon unboxing party on the Beading Dreams stream. So what we're doing tonight is what we had intended to do on Wednesday when we had the gas leak. So we're going to be doing part one of this project. This is what I've called my Bouquet pendant. And so again, this is a two-part project. It's a fairly complicated, intermediate complicated wire wrapping project, and so definitely it's going to take more than one stream to finish it. So the plan, of course, was to start it on Wednesday and finish it tonight, but then there was the gas leak and the threat of, everything exploding, which is, never good, and so we canceled everything on Wednesday. So we are doing part one of that pendant tonight, and we'll finish it up next week, Wednesday, unless there's another threat of potential explosion. So, hey Tanya, welcome. All right, so tools and supplies for this evening's tutorial. We have 18, yay, hugs to you, Amy, drive safely. All right, so we got 18 gauge wire. I am going to, oh goodness, no snowpocalypse part 2, goodness gracious, no more snowpocalypses. All right, so we've got 18 gauge wire, and that's what I'm going to use for the base of my piece. The reason I'm using 18 gauge wire instead of something a little heavier like 16 is because in this design, these two beads right here, this one and this one, need to actually go onto the wire. So it's really difficult to do that if you've got heavier wire than 18. But the center bead it's a cheater. It's not actually on the wire. So I need 18 gauge wire for my base. I'm going to need 2 accent beads for my side. I'm going to be using these large hole pearls for my accent beads here. I've got my center bead, which is going to be, I'm going to use this beautiful gigantic blue topaz olive shaped bead, and that's going to be my center bead. I'm going to need some smaller beads, some like 5-6 millimeter beads for the bottom. I'm going to use these exact same pearls for my project tonight. I'm going to need some 2 millimeter beads, except for the fact that what the heck did I do with my strand of, well crap, I had a strand of 3 millimeter aquamarines. Oh, there they are. Yeah, so I don't have 2 millimeter, but I got 3 millimeter aquamarines, so I have a half strand of those. Hey, Sophia! Yes. Oh, no! I think that is you, Sophia, because no one else has said they can't hear me, and usually if I were having audio problems at this point, somebody would have said something. You're going to need some center drilled beads that are going to be all of your kind of floral accents here, and so those I don't have with me. I actually think those are at home. So what I'm doing for my project tonight is this blue and pearl color scheme, and so I don't have any in the blue, but you're gonna need some center drilled beads for accents. These can be ovals or teardrops, and then you're gonna need an ass ton of fine gauge wire. So I'm gonna be doing the majority of this wrapping with 24 gauge, but my coiling I'm gonna do with either 26 or 28 gauge. I'm actually gonna be doing it with 28 gauge for the only reason that I'm doing that is because 26 gauge gold filled wire is back ordered from my main supplier, so I'm running out very quickly. However, if you read my spool of gold filled 28 gauge, we have back stock, so that's why I'm using 28 gauge wire for my coiling. Anytime you're doing wire coiling, the main thing that you really just want to focus on is you want to make sure that you have smaller wire coiled on top of bigger wire. So I'm going to do 28 gauge coiled on top of 24 gauge, and that's going to be awesome. Alright, so I'm going to start by cutting my 18 gauge wire. And how big you want your 18 gauge wire really depends on how big do you want your pendant, how long you want your piece of 18 gauge wire is how long you want your pendant. I'm actually having thoughts of turning these into earrings. I realize that's pretty intense, but I don't know, I've just had this idea in my head for a while. So I'm gonna make maybe a little smaller than this, and you know what, if I get tired and just want to do this one pendant, then hey presto, I have a pendant instead of a pair of earrings. Also, I forgot to say, if you want, you can add a drop on the bottom, and I didn't bring one back with me, but that's going to be part of part 2 anyway. I've got some really pretty blue topaz ones up front that I think are going to be great with this. So this piece of 18 gauge wire that I used for this, and if, like, you know, you can use my chest for scale, so it's not a small pendant, but it's not gigantic either. It's probably about, not counting the drop, it's about 2.5 inches from top to bottom. So for my earring piece, I think I'm going to do just a wee bit smaller, just a skosh, as we say in, you know, the Midwest. So I think that this one was 6 inches, probably. So I'm gonna do 5 inches, 5.5 inches of wire. Well, oh no, you gotta make the bail too. I'm doing 6 inches of wire. Screw it.
What?
Yep.
You're throwing caution to the wind?
I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm gonna have giant earrings. I'm gonna have big ass Amy style earrings.
Oh, she'll be really disappointed.
I'm sure she will. Also, I just realized that I scheduled a class for and a sale for, you know, next Saturday. Whoops.
Well, I'm not doing them.
Well, dang it! Now I've got Mutiny on the Bounty.
I do them, but I don't know how.
So yeah, I'm actually going to be out of town on a little weekend excursion. You know, I could just be stealthy about it, but I'm going to be on a little weekend excursion next week, and not working. It's going to be my first not working, like officially not working weekend in a really long time. But I just realized that I am with my graphic designer, the person who does my emails and such. I plan to schedule classes. I scheduled classes for next week. Whoopsie.
I was gonna ask you about that. And
yeah. See.
I thought, no, she knows.
Well, see, she knows, but she somehow inserted another week in the month of November.
Oh, can we still have that?
Well, no, because it doesn't actually exist. It's a fantasy week. It's an imaginary week.
But I need it.
Well, I need it too, but it doesn't exist, even though I really tried.
Dang it.
I'm sorry. I can't actually make extra time.
But you're so good at making things.
I'm so good at making things, but not time. Making time is not my cup of tea. Okay, so what I just did while I was rambling with Heather is I used my ring stick. So this is just my trusty little wooden ring stick that you all know I use for everything that involves roundness pretty much. So I bent my wire around my ring stick like so to make a teardrop. But what I want is I want a teardrop that's a little bit kind of fatter at the bottom. So all I did is I took my thumbs and I just sort of pressed that out to get more of a rounded bottom to my teardrop. So now I'm going to work on doing, so let's talk real quick about what we're, okay, this is irritating me that this is like not, that it's, come here, oh, there's so many things on that stool, there we go. It was irritating me that you could see off the edge of the stool. Okay, so let's talk about realistically what we're gonna do today, which is we're gonna do this center section with all of the coiling, etc. We are going to add these pearls, and the reason we're going to add these pearls tonight is because I discovered when I actually made my prototype, I added them after the fact, and it really just kind of pulled this out of whack. So we're going to add the pearls, and then we're going to do these side bits, and that's probably as far as we're going to get this evening, because of course we do have our live merchandise sale coming up at 7:30, despite the fact that I didn't post anything about it on social media. It's still happening, y'all. So I'm going to take my 24 gauge wire, and I'm going to cut myself a fairly long piece of that 24 gauge wire. I want to cut, I'm going to say 3 feet of it. I may need to add some more wire, which is totally fine. This is one of those projects where it's pretty easy to add another wire. It's a fairly busy project visually, so it's very easy to kind of hide and camouflage any wire additions that you might need to do. So it's not one of those projects where you need to just, you know, be absolutely crazy precise about your wire lengths, which is good because crazy precise projects, totally not my jam. Anybody who's been hanging on the Beading Dream stream for any length of time probably has figured that out. Oops. So, got my 24 gauge wire and my teardrop that I made. So, if I'm thinking about this, you know, judging by the size of my center drop, what I want to do is I want to anchor that wire on, it looks like right about there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach, not drop, but my center bead, and then I'm going to do all this coiling and embellishment around it. I want to leave myself on the left-hand side of my center. I want to leave myself enough wire to do this little embellishment here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to leave myself a solid probably 10 inches of wire. So I've got like a 10-inch wire tail going on this side here, and I've got all the rest of my wire on the other side. So now I'm going to anchor that wire around my frame nice and tightly. So I've just got that crossed over my frame. I'm going to pinch it, and then I'm just going to wrap it around my frame, pulling as tight as I can. So I want to make sure when I'm doing these wraps that they are tight to my frame and that they're very close together. Now your first wrap where you're holding a lot of times will wind up just sort of way out in left field. That's fine. After we've done a nice firm anchor here, we can actually unwrap that and we can pretend like that never happened. It's the best. Okay, so that's my good anchoring, those 3 wraps there. That's what I'm looking for, are 3 wraps that are nice and close together and tight to my frame. So now what I can do is I can just pinch those and I can remove my little beginning bits that are not so attractive, and there you go. It looks like I did it perfect from the get-go. Isn't it fabulous? Now I'm going to add my centerpiece bead. So sometimes on projects like this you start from the middle and you work outward. Sometimes on projects like this you'll start from the one end and work to the other. This is a middle and work outward project. Alright, so we have, and this is a gigantic olive-shaped blue topaz. This thing is sticking up so far. I'm not sure if I'm gonna love the way that this looks just because of the fatness of the stone, but I've got a plan that needs blue, so we're gonna see how this goes. Who knows? By the time I get back to this on Wednesday, I may wind up pulling everything apart and yeah. Pulling everything apart and starting over something else. So now I'm going to do that same anchor, that same nice tight 3-wrap anchor on the other side of my bead. So I just want to hold it so it stays on the front of my frame, because what's going to happen as you do this is it's going to want to rotate around to the side or the back, and for this particular project I want it to be on the front so that I can create this kind of front facing sort of, you know, floral effect. So 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Okay, so this tail here is just going to hang out. Don't do that, Allison. It's going to hang out and it's going to wait until it's its turn to shine. At this point, we're still concentrating on this center bead. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this coiled frame around my bead, and so that means I'm going to take my 24 gauge wire and since this bead is so much fatter than this bead that I used on my prototype. I think before I create my coiled frame, I'm just going to take my 24 gauge wire and I'm going to make a little bit of a seat for this stone. So I'm going to just wrap around the base of my stone a few times. Alright, just to kind of give it a little bit of a base to sit on. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my coiling. Is it worth doing my coiling? I think it is. Okay, so now I'm going to do my coiling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of my 28 gauge wire. And again, you could use 26 or 28 for this. The only reason I'm using 28 is because 26 is back ordered and we're running out of it swiftly. And it's pretty much the wire that we use most often here at Beading Dreams, so it is not a wire that I want to run us out of any more quickly than we need to. Generally, when you are coiling, you're going to need about triple or a little bit more the length that you're trying to coil. So I'm trying to coil about an inch or so I need at least 4 inches. I'm just going to go ahead and cut myself a decently long piece because I'm going to be doing a fair amount of coiling on this project. And then I'm going to take my 24 gauge wire. I'm still working on the long side, okay, not the short side. The short side, again, is just kind of hanging out until it's turn to do the thing, but I'm going to go to the long side of my 24 gauge wire and I'm going to go to the end of the wire, okay? So at this point now I'm at the end of the wire. My project's all the way down here. I'm going to take my 28 gauge wire and I'm going to cross it over my 24 gauge wire, like so. And then I'm going to start coiling. So I'm just going to pinch this nice and tightly and I'm going to start wrapping my 28 around my 24. And if you don't get your wraps perfectly close together, you can cheat and squish them together with your fingernails. There you go. So that's what you want. You want your wraps to be completely tight together so that they are touching each other. And I need to coil enough length to go around and frame my center bead, like so. So I like to coil at the end of the wire. Well, that's not good. I like to coil at the end of the wire because you've got so much more freedom to move. You can just literally rotate your wire, your small wire, around your big wire, whereas when you're rotating and coiling down closer to your project, there's a lot more stuff in the way. Now, you can't always do that. That's not always something that the project lends itself to, so sometimes you just have to, you know, suck it up and do it the hard way. But if you can do it the easy way, it really is so incredibly much easier to do it this way. So once I've gotten enough coiling done to go around the outside of my stone, okay, which I have, then I can go ahead and trim off this wire, my coiling wire. I can trim off the long end of it, and I can also go back to the beginning and trim off my short end. And again, your first couple coils might not look so good. It's okay to unwrap those and again pretend like they never happened and trim that wire off. Like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to hold at the end of this wire, and then I'm just going to pull this coil all the way down until it gets to my bead, or bead at this point. Okay, and just coil that around my bead, and then I'm going to anchor it off on this side. And again, this little tail, my beginning tail, That's still waiting, so just kind of move that out of the way. Anchor that around a couple times, and then I'm going to repeat, so I make another piece that's exactly like this. That's going to go on the top of that bead. So once again, okay, so now I'm going to go once again to the end of my wire, like so. Take my 28 gauge, so this is my 24 gauge, the end of my 24 gauge. I'm going to cross my 28 gauge over, and I'm going to wrap. And I'm just going to coil until once again I have enough coil to go around that center bead. So I'm a hand coiler, as you've obviously noticed. I'm not really into coiling with drills or machines or gizmos of any kind. I know that I am not in the majority necessarily with that opinion, but I don't know, there's actually just something about coiling wire by hand that I really like. I find it very meditative, and so, and I just honestly find it easier to control when I'm doing it completely by hand. But if you don't like that, there are lots of ways that you can get machines to help you with your coiling. This isn't a super intense project as far as coiling goes, so I mean, doing the coiling in this by hand is not a gigantic deal, I feel like, but there, you know, there are widgets and gizmos and such that can help with this. So we're gonna go ahead and keep coiling. Enough to go around that bead. A little bit more. Alright, so once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and trim both ends. And trim this. And then the key to getting it to slide down nice and easily is to just grab the end of that wire, the 24 gauge with your chain nose pliers, and then just kind of wiggle and pull and slide that all the way down until you get right down next to your bead, and then just bring it around and anchor that on. Now I'm going to do a row of smaller beads. So these could be, I'm going to go ahead and do twice. These could be 2mm, 3mm, even probably 4mm beads depending on the scale of the project that you're working on. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to string enough beads to go, again, around the outside of my bead. It's going to be a little bit longer of a piece than my coiled piece, because I'm making a little bit of a bigger space now, or not space, but line. Sorry, y'all, there's a little bit of chatter in the room that's slightly distracting. But hey, 17 people, it's nice to see all of y'all out there. Where's everybody? Where is everybody hanging out this evening? It is Saturday night. We appreciate you watching the Beading Dreams stream. Where are you watching from? Anybody who up there who wants to chime in, we would greatly appreciate knowing. Okay, well, computer, nobody asked you to chime in. So my computer apparently has chimed in with some adware, so that's very exciting. But yeah, where are y'all hanging out there on the internet today? Just curious. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm stringing these beads on, and bear with me for just a second, y'all. All right, and we're back. Corvus does amazing skull crafting from California, Richardson, Ohio, Central Texas, Huntsville, the voluntary parts. Kenneth, I think that might be my favorite descriptor of everybody. Edmonton, Alberta. Oh my God, the clock is changing tonight. Dang it. Why did you have to remind me of that, Lori? Luckily, I don't have anything to do tomorrow except for yard work, and so that was going to, you know, happen no matter what time I wake up, and no matter what time the clock says when I wake up, yard work is still gonna do its thing. Okay, so I've got beads on here. That's still not 17 people. I see you lurkers out there not wanting to say where you are. All right, we have, all right, so I got one more bead than I need, so I'm gonna take that one off. But I've got a nice little string of beads. That's true, the bad change is in spring. That's when they steal an hour of our lives. This is the you get an extra hour of sleep change, which is fine, but it's still, honestly, even though it's the good change, it still messes with me, because it's like, why can't the time just stay the same? Seriously. Anybody want to, like, you know,
Right,
possibly...
because Arizona's fancy.
Okay, so now I'm going to string this exact same thing for the other side. So I can do myself a small favor and I can count 2, 4, 6, 8, 11. I promise that was proper counting. Just ask Heather.
That is Allison's version of proper counting. Yes.
1, 3, 9, 11. Yay. Yes, I have a bad habit of counting partly out loud and partly in my head, and doesn't always agree with Heather's brain parts.
No. No.
I promise all the numbers are there. They're just not all out loud. Hey,
That's fair.
18 people. Hi, people. Welcome to the Saturday night tutorial stream. Hey, I didn't post at all on any social media, but guess what? Once I'm done with this tutorial stream, we're going to take a 30-minute break, and then we're going to do our Sips, Shopping, and Shenanigans live sales stream. That means we're going to have signature cocktails and beads to buy. So, if you're lurking out there and you want to see me get even sillier, aided and abetted by Heather and the rest of the stream, plus selling shiny beaded merchandise, please stop back at 7:30 p.m. on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream. Otherwise, I know, booze. I mean, and we're doing it's our first shaker and spoon official stream. So we're going to be mixing our first shaker and spoon cocktail. It's going to be the Parent Necessities. Yes, Corvus. No! The fancy sword's not to defend the toads, it's to defend
the toads from the bots, exactly.
Right? No, it's to defend the me from the bots.
Defend the...
Are you calling me a toad?
I am not.
Alright, so that goes around, and then we are going to anchor, and now I'm going to do another round of coiling. So that means back to my 28 gauge wire. I think I still have enough to do at least one more, like so. So I'm going to go to the end, like so, and oh my gosh, Talifet wants to make a beaded toad. Y'all, I did not expect this joke to have such
frog legs?
Such legs. Yeah, no pun intended. But wow. The toads are just going to go down as the all-time Beading Dreams stream mascot. So I'm going to go ahead and thank you, Corvus. Corvus will defend everyone with her sword, not just the toads. Yeah, so thank you to everybody who picked up the mod swords. We appreciate it greatly. Or actually, apparently you don't have a choice. I just flung the mod swords at you.
Hope you didn't catch them blade first.
A falling sword has no handle.
Mm-hmm.
A flying sword also has no handle, unless you're a professional.
Thank goodness these are magical internet swords.
Yeah, I think thankfully they're made of pixels. I don't think anybody has been murdered by pixels recently, at least that I know of. Okay, I know that Tallyfet said BRB exclamation point, but I totally read it as burb.
Herb.
Well, so once you're done with the emotes, Corvus, I think I've said this before, I may or may not have said this, that I have plans to continue to your indentured servitude for beads. Alright, Don and Miguel. Cheers to that. Sword juggling professionals. On the list of careers I would be really, 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 really bad at. Just ask my father about the very last time he ever tried to play catch with me. It was pretty tragic. Managed to split my lip and destroy one of my grandfather's handmade birdhouses in the same game of catch. At that point was, I think, when he put away the baseball mitts and decided that it was okay for me to not be a sporty girl. But yeah, sword jugglers, amazing people, super talented, fantastic, amazing people. Again, on the list of jobs that I should never, so yes, our erstwhile employee who visited us today.
That was amazing.
It was amazing, but yeah, she used to be a professional sword swallower. She can also throw knives and juggle and hula hoop and balance hula hoop while sword swallowing and juggling.
Yes.
She holds a Guinness World Record for escaping from a straitjacket whilst swallowing a sword. So she's pretty awesome. Again, on the list of careers that I never, ever, ever need to have in my life. Okay, so now I have, alright, so I've coiled enough to go now, hopefully around the outside of this. I didn't cut my long end because I'm not completely sure. Also, okay, so black fingers, this is going to happen to you. If you're wire coiling, wire wrapping, wire weaving, it just does. So it's not just you. Well, she's not only rolled her eyes at all the comments, but she has embraced the comments as well, because she taught a class when she was working at Adam and Eve.
That's true.
So she's definitely also leaned into that particular skill set in the, you know, in the way that the internet has a tendency to paint it. I think the only bummer about that was that her employers at the time were apparently douchebags. But she did teach a class at a local erotic shop. Something about tips and tricks from a professional sword swallower. So I didn't coil quite enough. So this is what happens when you have already slid it down. I mean, yes, could I slide it all the way back to the end? Absolutely could I. Is there a really good chance that I would then slide it off the end? 100%. That's why I'm not doing it. So I'm just kind of coiling around down here, and this is it's just a little more awkward. So I'm gonna need another piece of wire, I think, for the other side, because another piece of 28 gauge, but I'm almost done with this. Alright, there we go. That's good. Okay, so trim off my end. So yeah, I'm gonna need another piece of 28 gauge to do the other side of this because I only have 2 inches left, which is not nearly enough. Okay, so I'm gonna take that around the outside of my beaded section and anchor around my frame. Alright, and then I have one more section of coil to go, and then we're going to put on our side beads, and then that is going to conclude. Oh, I didn't do the thing I said I was going to do. Tisk tisk, Allison. Alright, I was going to put the pearls on, these pearls on, before I anchored this on. So, alright, so we're just going to shunt that to part 2, and I'm just going to have to deal with how that happens. So that's going to be interesting. So we're going to go ahead and do this second set of coiling on the top, and then we're going to do the side beads. You know, the best laid plans of streamers everywhere go astray when you forget what you plan to do. This is why professional actors have cue cards and teleprompters and crap. 28 gauge wire, 24 gauge wire, crossy, and coil. So tonight on our 7:30 p.m. live merchandise sale, we have more of our 8-inch strand trunk show. We have, I'm going to do all the tiny shinies tonight that I did not get to. Tally Fett, you better be on. That I didn't get to last week. And also some, there was a whole tray of merchandise last week that I didn't even get to on the Saturday night sale because I talked too much. I can see Heather rolling her eyes through the computer screen.
You cannot.
I can.
Golly, I didn't know I rolled them that loudly.
Yep.
I didn't, though.
I can hear them. I bet you saw your own brains. So yeah, tiny shinies tonight.
Because my brain's so big.
Well, fair. Including tiny shiny cubes. And I don't know. Probably not findings, probably just beads. I was supposed to do findings tonight. We did an email that said I was going to. I might ask the stream.
I can pick some stuff out.
Maybe we should just do like bronze clasps.
Okay.
Let's do a tray of bronze clasps. That sounds good.
Okay.
And we are going to be mixing our first shaker and spoon cocktail. And we're going to be doing that on stream, so you can see all the tiny bottles in all their tiny bottle glory. And no, these are cornered cubes, ASO. They are not cornerless. These are cubes with corners and facets. They're sparkly cornered cubes, and they're small and cute. Alright, so I'm going to trim this off. I'm going to slide it down, see if it is big enough. Yeah, I don't think you need to make notes during the sale, Lori. You just need to concentrate on, you know, keeping your fingers free to claim items. Or you can let Turbo take responsibility for the claiming of the items. I feel like he would be good at it. I feel like he would claim you lots of good things. Possibly not all things you would want, but I feel like Turbo would be a good, you know, sale assistant. Okay, so I got to do a little bit more when I bring that around the outside. I got about 1/4 of an inch that I still need to coil. Ziggy was helping me with the knotting job this morning, and when I say helping, I definitely mean helping. It's always exciting when the felines decide to help. But yes, that was my, hold on. That was my helper this morning on my knotting project. That's the dirty Ziggy Pete. Because he had obviously been out doing something cat-like. Luckily my knotting project was black, not right. Oh, Turbo. good thing about kittens is short attention span theater. Is if you can just hide the thing long enough, usually they'll find something else to distract them. Alright, so now I'm done coiling. I'm going to trim that off and come around the outside and then anchor that off. So now it's time to do my 2 outside beads, and then that's going to conclude part 1 of this stream. So that's going to be this one and this one. So unlike this center bead, these beads actually need to go onto this 18 gauge wire, which is why I'm using large hole pearls. Okay, so handily, I've got my tail from the beginning of my project that's on one side of my center, and I've got my working wire on the other side of my center. So
Don't die, please.
Then you'd have to do the stream. Oh, either that or you could just host an online memorial for me. Okay, back, not dying. So I'm going to take my large hole pearl, drop that onto my 18 gauge wire, like so, and then I'm going to take my 24 gauge wire, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a wire border around my pearl. So I'm going to go around my pearl, and I'm going to wrap around my frame at the top of my pearl, and then I'm going to go around my pearl, and I'm going to wrap around my frame at the bottom of my pearl. And what I like to do is I like to just kind of make sure I spread this out so that it's more around the sides of the pearl. It wants to kind of cheat towards the front, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not the look that I like. So I like it to be spread a bit wider because it makes the pearl look bigger. If your wire bits are cheated too far towards the front, it just makes your pearl look, or your bead, whatever your bead is, it makes it look smaller. So I'm going to do one more round. So around the pearl, and wrap around the pearl, and wrap, and then I'm going to do one round embellished with 3mm gold filled beads. So using that same working wire, I'm going to grab my 3mm gold filled beads, and I'm going to just string enough to go around this outside curve right here. It's probably going to be 6 or 7 is my guess, judging by the size of this. We'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to have to clean this stool off for the sale. A lot of stuff on there. 5. Alright, let's see what 6 does. Okay, not quite. 1, possibly 2 more. Alright, so that's actually 8. I'm going to wrap around. And then I'm going to go around the other side, so that means I need 8 more. 3. 6. 7. 1 more makes 8. And then that goes around the other side, and then I'm just gonna anchor that down. This coil slid out a little bit more than I would have liked, but I'm just gonna, I think, anchor that over it. And again, we're just gonna pretend that nothing bad happened there. You guys won't tell anybody, right?
Tell anybody what?
See? I know my secret's safe with Heather. The rest of the internet is questionable. Alright, so there we go. And then I'm gonna leave this wire just kind of hanging here. This is gonna start my set of embellishments on the side when I get back to this project next week. So I'm not going to cut this off yet, but I'm just going to leave this hanging here. Now I'm going to take my tail. Remember that tail from the beginning of the project? Yes, it's finally time for it to have a purpose. So now we're going to go to the other side of our center. I'm going to drop my bead on, and I'm just going to take this tail and I'm going to just do one little wrap right at the base of that bead, because of course my tail, since it's from the beginning of my project, is coming from, you know, a solid 1/4 of an inch further in than where my bead is. Now I'm going to do those 2 rounds around with just my bare wire. So I'm going to go around and wrap, and then around and wrap. Oh, yep, it's on the flow. Be right back. At least it's easy to see because it's not small. Unlike some things that I drop on the floor, which are not easy to see, and that fire agate cabochon, which is somewhere over there, which will probably never be found ever, ever, ever. So what I was saying when I unceremoniously dropped my piece was, remember, you know, if you want these to be kind of more on the outside, just sort of use your nails or your fingers to pull them around. And then I'm going to do a second round. So we're going to go around, wrap, and around, and wrap. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with our beads. So again, that was 8 beads, I believe, if I remember correctly. 2, 4, 6, yep, 8 beads. Alright, so I have 8 beads strung on there, and I'm going to go around the outside of my pearl, anchor at the top, and then 8 more beads for the other side. Almost there. Okay, so that's 8 for that side, so we're going to bring that around the other side of the pearl, and then we're going to anchor this off. This one's easier because this side of the coil behaved properly, unlike the other side of the coil, which behaved like a jerk face and shifted itself, but I don't quite have enough here to grab easily with my fingers, so I'm going to take my chain nose pliers. I'm going to use that to pull that around. Yep, 1, 2, and this really isn't enough to do anything with, so that one I'm just going to go ahead and cut off. I'm going to have to add a new wire onto that side to finish up my embellishments, which is totally fine. And then of course there is a pointy stabby bit there. We want that to go away, so we're just going to take our chain nose pliers and we're going to press that down. Alright, and there we go. Ta-da! Okay, so that's it. That's the conclusion of part 1 of our bouquet pendant. So honestly, if you wanted to, you could stop here. This could be a really fun earring by itself. It could be, or pendant, it could be a really fun earring if you even skipped these parts and just did the center bit. You could turn it this way and also make it into a fun pendant. I feel like there's also potential here for a ring. So you don't necessarily have to continue on with this, but of course we will, because more is better. So if you tune in Wednesday, and that's next week Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time on the Beading Dream stream, you're going to see me complete the process of this, turning into something more like this. We're going to add our little embellishments here. We're going to add our pearls, the drop on the bottom, and we're going to add the bail and the embellishment on the top as well. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us on this Saturday evening Beading Dreams stream. I am Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. We are, of course, an actual brick and mortar retail store. We're here and open for business Monday through Saturday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. So if you're in Dallas, please come visit us often. Yeah, come visit us often. If you're not local in Dallas, you can find us on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, 5 times a week with complimentary tutorials. We stream Wednesday through Saturday. I know, Noob Sauce. I'm very excited. That's my plan. My plan is to make them into earrings. I, of course, have to make another one. And also, hi. But yeah, we're on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, 5 times a week with complimentary tutorials. That's going to be Wednesday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time, plus Thursdays at noon. And of course, live merchandise sales every Wednesday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. That means that it's a live sale night because it's Saturday here in Dallas. So we're going to be starting the sale in about 30 minutes. That actually is going to equate to about 7:45 on the Beading Dream stream because Heather and I have our closing duties to do. So we are going to get off the stream, go close the store, get merchandise together for the sale. I'm going to clean off my stool because I have a pile that's like as tall as I am in the place where I need to put the merchandise that I'm about to sell. So we will be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, in about 30 minutes with the live merchandise sale featuring 8-inch gemstone strands. So everybody, hey, it's a Sips Shopping and Shenanigans sale. We're going to be mixing our first shaker and spoon cocktail. So mix a cocktail of your very own. Grab your something, cocktail, snack, hydration, put on your bead buying pants, get comfy, get cozy, and get ready to watch the Beading Dream stream from the comfort of your living room, office, or wherever you happen to watch us from Retail Therapy, coming straight to your computer. So, live sale, 30 minutes, back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream. We'll see you in a minute.